Hey, how you going? It's Donna here, free to be pet therapy, and today I have another story to share with you. It's Krystal's story. So Krystal's owner Sam came to me because she was having trouble with Krystal due to the fact that Krystal didn't seem to be able to relax at all. So basically what Sam said to me was that Krystal is very rarely relaxed. She's not relaxed under saddle and can come across as hot, although I think it's nerves. She does try very hard to please, but quite often tries to preempt what you want her to do, and I feel it makes her more anxious. She has a short stride, almost like a gaited horse, and feels tense most of the time. If you ask her to step over an object on the ground or step over in the forest, she'll get anxious and leaps. No amount of gentle training seems to work, as the next time you ride her, she leaps over the object again, and you have to start all over. Now that's quite common with any animal actually when it's operating from its sympathetic nervous system, so its fight or flight type system. They're not really able to absorb training, so anything that they may be taught will most likely have to retaught again, ideally in a state where they are relaxed, because it's only when they're relaxed that they can absorb their training and then therefore remember it the next day. And she worries when you rug her or brush her, and depending on the day will run off when you try to do either of these things. She's very wary of people, even worse with males. I cannot use a bit in her mouth as she panics. The vet has told me that her jaw has been broken at some stage, so I'm guessing that is why she freaks out when I put a bridle on. She was extremely head shy, and you could not touch her ears when I first got her, but much has improved in 10 years. So Sam had a vet out to check over Krystal, who was pretty, all clear, quite healthy. She had a chiro out for adjustments with Krystal's stride, and everything seemed okay except a little bit of muscle tension. So Sam had body work done. She had some sort of nerve treatment which helps with pain and discomfort, so she did that. She did everything she can. She had a professional saddle sitter come out. Saddle sitter, did I say saddle sitter? Saddle fitter. You sit in a saddle, but yeah, saddle fitter came out. And she also actually had a trainer come out for Krystal, but because Krystal was just not relaxed, the trainer couldn't really do much. So basically all Sam really wanted out of this was a more relaxed horse, a more happier horse. She would like to have a horse that she can ride. She was really starting to lose faith in her own riding and not enjoying riding Krystal because Krystal was so tense. So yeah, she just wanted a chilled ride, which she pretty much never gets. So the intention that I set for Krystal was to release all physical, mental, emotional and spiritual trauma associated with her inability to feel calm and relaxed, so that she can feel calm and relaxed within herself, around other people and under saddle. The reason she was so head shy and why she cannot tolerate a bit in her mouth. All of this so that she is able to be a calm, relaxed, happy horse who can feel at ease when being ridden. So Krystal needed 5 sessions all up for that particular intention. And over the course of those 5 sessions, the emotions that Krystal needed released. There was low self-esteem in 2016 due to poor treatment. There was shock in September 2009. I'm wondering if this shock had anything to do with the reason she was so head shy, and maybe she broke her jaw. I think it might have been something to do with that. She felt despondent in March 2008. She actually came up with an emotion of cautiousness, which came up for February this past year, 2025. And I sort of concluded that it was to do with a female friend. And it turned out that Sam, the owner, had actually brought in a mare, a female horse. I think it was either to look after the horse for someone else, or someone else needed a place for the horse to stay. Yeah, I don't think it was because she bought the mare herself. So obviously Krystal was a little bit cautious of this horse that came in on the property. Anger came up from a previous life, and that anger was due to another horse. Resolute came up when Krystal was around the age of 4. When she was 3, an emotion of anger. There was self-doubt when she was around 5. And then broken-hearted came up. It came up January this year, so 2025. And it had turned out that she had lost a paddock mate. Sam's, I think it was a pony. Pony had passed away. It was really sad. And it was interesting, the brokenheartedness sort of became an issue for Krystal about 2 weeks after. I think Sam mentioned that she allowed Krystal to sort of stand where or see the pony. I don't know if she meant see it past or if Krystal was just hanging out where the pony passed away and was lying. I can't remember, but she allowed Krystal to do so, which I think is really important. But yeah, the brokenheartedness didn't set in for about 2 weeks afterwards. I guess it's like people sometimes, you know, something bad can happen and you might not actually really feel the emotions for, you know, a week or two later. And then I also had to release anger again. It was an issue for Krystal around 2002, and this seemed to be due to physical and verbal abuse. Okay, then we got to miasms. So miasms is ancestral energy, and there was quite a lot of emotional miasms that came up. From her mother's side, 6 generations back, there was, just let me have a look, transformation, which is like a change in emotional response, resentment, that came up 2 times, and low self-esteem. And then from her mother's side, 5 generations back, there was cautious, brokenhearted came up twice. And then from her mother's side, 4 generations back, there was low self-esteem and shock. And then 3 generations back, still on the dam side, we had low self-esteem. And then on the mother's side, once again, 2 generations ago, there was brokenhearted and there was also doubt. So there's lots of ancestral energy released there. And then there was also ancestral energy to do with cancer, which was 5 generations back. Sora, which relates to skin disorders or allergies or hay fever. That was, did I say that was 7 generations back? And 8 generations back, there was a spiritual miasm, as well as 7 generations back. I think that's what my notes say. So a spiritual miasm, to be 100% honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what it is. I know under the spirit, when I'm dealing with the spiritual layer of a horse or any animal, I'm dealing with chakras, minor chakras, major chakras, archangels, downloads, what else is there? Electromagnetic stress, ancestral energy. What else is there? I'm also working with the energy field of the horse. Quite often the flower of life comes up in the spiritual aspect. Flower of life is a way of boosting the energy field with energy from earth and energy from above. They're the main things. So I'm gathering a spiritual miasm. There's some sort of non-beneficial energy associated with that layer which I release. And then a few interesting things that came up. Session 1, visiting energy came up, and what came through was it was possibly the dog of the owner, and I found out later that yes, Sam's dog had passed. Now there was something significant about it. I don't know if Krystal kept going to the place where the dog passed away or kept going to the place where the dog hung out. I'm not sure, but there was something a bit like, oh wow, that's freaky. So that kind of freaked her out a little bit, to be honest with you. So I was able to release that visiting energy. Basically what I do is send it to the true light with any assistance that it might need. Okay, then what came up, session 3, we'd had a lot of I think there were fires interstate or something, and because of the direction of the wind, they ended up getting a lot of the smoke where Sam lived. Sam lived around 2 wells in South Australia, and they had experienced a lot of this smoke. And it was interesting. I didn't really know about it because I don't generally watch the news. But what came up was there was an animal essence that she needed, or Krystal needed, and it's called Breathe Easy, which just helps open up the airways and allow for ease of breath. And then I ended up putting 2 and 2 together and went, oh, of course. And I asked Sam, did you guys get smoke your way? And she was like, yeah, they did. So I'm gathering that's why that came up, because what happens during my sessions is, obviously I'm dealing with the intention, but if anything else needs to be healed that comes along, or whatever needs to be healed first before I can work further and deeper into the intention, then that will be healed and released at an energetic level. So what ended up also coming up in that session was that Krystal needed her nervous system cleared and balanced, her respiratory system, which made sense with the breathing and stuff, and her adrenals. And I don't know how I came to the conclusion. I don't know if it just popped in my head. but the need for supplementation came up. I thought about magnesium, and so I sort of mentioned it to Sam. And then it so happened in session 4, when I was working with the physical layer of the energy field, lifestyle came up. Now, when lifestyle comes up, it always means that there's some sort of change needed. And it was to do with diet. And then when I sort of questioned into it a bit further, there was some supplementation needed. And so that's when magnesium came up again. So I thought I would, obviously something was right in that 3rd session. I got something right there because it came up again. I hope that was the reason why, because I know sometimes I've got to be careful, because sometimes I might preempt an answer. I've got to be really careful and clear my mind to make sure that what's coming through is what's meant to be coming through and not my own thoughts coming into play. But magnesium came up and I mentioned it to Sam, and I remember after session 3, was it session 3? Yeah, I remember after session 3 sort of mentioning it to her and saying, look, I don't know, probably best to get your, like, because I'm not a vet, so best to get the vet out, do a blood test or whatever's needed to see if she's low in magnesium. And I mentioned it again, obviously, after the 4th session, because it came up in the healing. And Sam has spent a lot of money on vets, so couldn't really afford it at the time. But she found out with a bit of research that she could just get some light supplementation just to see how Krystal goes. It wouldn't harm her in any way. And I think it actually worked out to be a positive. That, I mean, magnesium is really important when it comes to enabling the muscles to relax. So, you know, that could have been much of, or, you know, definitely part of Krystal's challenge of not being able to relax her muscles. And then over the course of the 5 sessions, she needed quite a few downloads. So downloads are just where Krystal is receiving information from somewhere else, be it spirit or possibly even someone in the physical, but it's all through, you know, telepathy or whatever. And it can do with just changing the way the horse's internal dialogue of how it's interpreting things. It can be just, you know, to do with that. Flower of Life came up quite a few times for Krystal. So as I said earlier, Flower of Life is all about giving the energy field a boost, strengthening the energy field with energy from below and energy from above, just sort of allowing it to come through. Basically comes out through the heart and just expands around the whole energy field, giving it a good strong boost. And actually her energy field needed so much of a boost, she ended up needing the triple hologram of love, which is like the Flower of Life times 10. It's a lot powerful version of the Flower of Life. So she needed the Flower of Life, I think 5 times over the sessions, not in every single session, but there were some sessions she needed it twice. And then on top of that, the triple hologram of love. So she obviously needed that energy boost. Okay, archangels came up for her during her session. She needed Archangel Michael. I haven't had Archangel Michael come through very often lately, but Michael's all about, you know, protection, courage, strength. Archangel Raphael quite often comes up. He's all about healing. Archangel Metatron, who comes through quite a lot, is all about releasing what no longer serves. Archangel Metatron can also access the Akashic records, so that's like the universe's library of every soul's past, present and future. And so Archangel Metatron can play around with that a little bit, I suppose. Archangel Ariel also came up. Archangel Ariel was all about protecting nature, so the planet's resources, ecosystems and the animals. And Archangel Ariel can actually be called upon when you have a sick pet, just to come in and assist with that. And then obviously over the course of these 5 sessions, chakras needed to be cleared and balanced. In particular, what came up most often, I think, was the heart chakra, the root chakra. So heart, obviously divine love, root chakra, grounding to Mother Earth, and what also came up, solar plexus, which is personal power. Oh yeah, and the crown chakra came up quite a bit too. So that's all about connection to divine. And then just a couple of minor chakras that came up during the sessions. There was self-preservation, which is, I think, is pretty much self-explanatory. There was her nose chakra, which is very much related to the sensing chakra. It may have something to do with the smoke and the breathing as well. And her oversoul chakra. So the oversoul chakra is, for a horse in particular, is how a horse is connected to horse spirit. All the other horses up there in spirit land. So yeah, that was Krystal's session. Now, whilst I was working with Krystal, Sam had a lot of personal things, personal family challenges that came up, and wasn't able to really provide me with much feedback or have a lot of time to sort of connect with me. I did get this short little testimonial off of her. So Sam writes, I would like to express my gratitude to Donna for the energy healing sessions with my mare Krystal. Krystal, a rescue horse I acquired a decade ago, is a gentle mare who carries significant emotional baggage from a traumatic past. My objective in collaborating with Donna was to help Krystal relax both on the ground and under saddle. From the second session, I observed noticeable improvements in Krystal's behaviour. She began to seek my presence in her paddock, not merely for food time. Additionally, the reading provided valuable insights into how I could further help support Krystal. Our relationship has significantly improved. So as much as it was great, she's obviously noticed a significant change in Krystal with regards to how Krystal is with groundwork. It's a shame, I guess, that nothing's been noticed in the saddle yet, but I think the groundwork is the foundation. A horse is not going to be able to relax in the saddle if it can't be relaxed doing the groundwork. So I think it's we've set Krystal on a nice positive path where hopefully, given time and appropriate training, she will actually be able to relax under saddle. So that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed hearing Krystal's story, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye for now.